Hi everybody, this is Oksana, and finally I'm bringing you a wire wrapped crystal as promised. Took me long enough, but I got one here, and we are gonna wire wrap it today into this lovely little pendant. So if you want to see how I did this, then just keep watching. So the two types of wire that we're going to be using, so we're going to be using some 21 gauge square. This is dead soft copper from Rio Grande, and I'm using 3 pieces of it. You can use other metals as well. You can use sterling silver if you want, but you would just use dead soft 20 gauge square. So that's what this is. This is dead soft. And the reason, oh I'm sorry, 21 gauge, not 20 gauge. And the length of these 3 wires is 11 inches. So if you don't want to use copper and you want to use like sterling silver or something, then it would just be the same thing. It would be dead soft 21 gauge square. So then I'm also going to use some half round wire, and this is 24 gauge. Nice and thin, and the reason that I'm going so small here, so this is, you know, not my usual 20 gauge, and the half round wire is thinner as well, is because my stone is quite small. This is the only crystal I have. Well, I have like a few of them, but they're all so tiny, and it's about an inch, but it's just thin and it looks small. It's actually a bead. I don't know if you can see, there's a little hole there, but we're gonna just turn it this way and pretend it's not a bead and just wrap it as a normal crystal. Now, what I'm focusing on in this video, this is Aura Quartz, so it's got like a shiny coating on it, is how to do crystals that don't necessarily have like a wider and a skinnier portion. Like if you have a crystal where it gets narrower, you can wrap a wire around it, kind of like I did with that kyanite shard video. So that video, the shard was getting wider and I was able to trap it from sliding down. But what if you have a crystal that's pretty even? I mean, you could say this one has this portion here, which makes it wider, so you could kind of trap it, but we're just gonna wrap it the way I would wrap any crystal that is, you know, pretty uniform, where you can't just put a wire around here. It would, you know, slide out of it. So we're gonna treat it that way, just to show you what to do in that case. And we're gonna wrap our half round wire right in the middle here to connect these 3. And this is basically the normal frame pendant that I do. So if you've seen me make other pendants that don't use, you know, crystals, they just use cabochons, they might have, you know, the same kind of beginning to them, because I'm applying that technique to this crystal. So I wrapped this around. This is like the little tail end that I grabbed, and this is still connected to the spool. If you needed to wrap some more this way with the wire that's connected to the spool, you would guide it with one hand and you would turn it with your other hand. That is best to do, otherwise it'll get twisted. Don't just go around and around like I did with this end. You can only do that if it's cut. Otherwise, if it's still connected to the spool, it'll get twisted. So then I'm just gonna trim off my little ends of wire here. Let me zoom in. There we go. And I'm just gonna press down on this whole thing. Let me just press down. There we go. And you want to look at your crystal and the bottom of it. So I want to position mine like this, and the bottom of it has a point. So I'm just gonna zoom out a tiny bit here. So what I'm gonna do, because mine has a point, is I'm gonna bend this to have a point. If yours is rounded, you would just make kind of a rounded bend with your fingers. All right, so I'm taking my point and I'm putting it down in that little angle that I made there, and I'm holding both the crystals and the crystal and the wire, and I'm bending this wire around and up the sides of it to the top like this. So I'm making a frame around my crystal, and then I'm kind of holding the sides here so things don't move out of place. And then, so I normally say when we're wrapping cabochons that like put this down flat on a table, but this time you can't because the crystal's rounded, so it's not going to lay flat on the table. So you kind of have to just do it in the air like this. So we have 3 wires on each side. Make sure that they're not crisscrossed. They're all just nicely lined up with each other because it's square wire. They have kind of flat sides to them like that. So just if any wire gets twisted, say like the flat sides of them are like this, but somehow this top wire got a little turned, you can just take your pliers and just put it back so everything is like stacked and lined up nicely. Like that. So I'm bringing the wires together at the top here, and I'm putting like a little angle with my fingers like this to have them come together. So now you have 2 choices. Let me zoom out. So what you want to do, let me just fix mine a little bit here. There we go, how I was holding it before. So what you want to do is you want to just feel your crystal. Does it just pop out easily? Can you just take it out and put it back in? Usually you'll be able to. You know, we just have all different kind of shapes and sizes. So I'm just going to remove it so it's easier to wrap here, the bail. So we're going to make the bail. We're going to use, again, the same 24 gauge half round wire, dead soft, to connect. So I'm taking an end of it and I'm wrapping it around all the wires. So there's a total of 6 wires because 3 and 3 kind of join together, and it's kind of 3 wires stacked on top of 3 wires. So I've wrapped around to connect them. And now I'm just going to grab this little tail end, and it's here in the back, and I'm putting it from back to front, and I'm putting it through the wire frame like this, and I'm just pulling on it with my pliers. So here it is coming out like this, and I'm just going to trim it now. And that's how I like to finish off my wire end. That way it's less likely to unravel because it's here. And to unravel, it would have to like come all the way out. So we're just going to take the 2 frontmost wires. We're going to bend them forward, and we're going to just kind of push the other wires back a little bit. And we're just going to wrap around only those 2 wires. And that's going to be our bail. Let me just straighten that out. So I'm guiding the wire because it's connected to the spool. I can't just go around and around. It'll get all twisted. So I'm just guiding it with my right hand, and with my left hand I'm twisting the piece. And that is how I'm wrapping it around my bail. And I'm just going to do this for a minute until it's tall enough. So once you've done that for a little bit, this is going to be large enough to be my bail. And of course it depends. Do you need a really big bail because you have a really thick necklace, or is a small bail sufficient? So we're just going to trim this so that the little wire end is in the back. So this is the front of my pendant, and the wire end is back here. If I turn it around, I'm just going to press down on the wire end, and I'm going to press down on just everything, just this whole bail, little by little with my pliers. It just kind of flattens that half round wire. Looks nice like that. So we are, let me think. So the thing with the bail and these remaining wires is, if you've seen my other videos, there's been so many different kind of patterns and things that I've done, and feel free to do any of those if there's a particular one you liked. I'll try to come up with something, you know, different so it's not repetitive from the other videos to do here with the bail. But before I do that, I just want to lock my stone in, because the thing is, when you lock your stone in, you are kind of pulling a little bit on these wires. So before I do things with them, I want to make sure that they're placed where they're going to be placed. Because say like I bent this wire, but then I pull on it, it's going to, you know, pull it down and maybe misshape whatever I did up here with the bale. So I stuck my stone back in there. Let me just turn it. I don't want to see the little hole. I'm trying to cover it up because it's a bead, technically. I think that's good. I think that's how I had positioned it before. I don't know. Or was it more turned? I think it was more turned. Yeah, because I remember this shiny side with the blue. I think that's how I had it. Maybe. And we'll just do that. Sorry guys, troubleshooting. All right, so once your stone is in there, how you want it, here on the back, I'm just taking this wire and I'm putting a little bend in it. Whoop. Not something huge because, especially if you're using a quartz and it's going to be clear, you don't want the wire to really go across the stone too much because it'll be noticeable from the front. You'll see it through the stone. So I'm just putting another little angular bend here. All right, so then here in the front, we're gonna do kind of a similar thing. We're gonna wedge our pliers here in between to get to this frontmost wire. Then we're gonna go to the bottom here and we're just gonna put an angular bend like that. And then actually I just noticed, see the bend here in the back? See there's like a little gap there? You wanna just press it down if that happens. And then here on the other side, same thing, just go down, 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 make a little bend. And you kind of have to work with the stone you have, especially these types of stones. They can be all very different and have different kind of little bumps and things on them. So here I have this like little gap kind of thing. So I'm just gonna try and like press the wire down into the gap. I don't know, it's kind of up to you if you want to do this, but it'll kind of hold the stone better and show the character of the stone better. See how I did that? Now you can see it's going like this. All right, so now your stone should be trapped because we've bent the frame onto it here in the front and here in the back as well. If it's not trapped, feel where it's loose and tighten up your wires in that area, like maybe here at the top. This isn't, you know, trapping it well enough, so just kind of move the wire more onto the stone and just troubleshoot it until it just feels really nice and trapped from all sides here. Basically, if the frame is small enough and the wire is going onto your stone, then the stone won't be able to pop through. So now, just thinking what I can do here. I'm gonna take, so these were the first two wires. These are the next two wires. So with the next two wires, I'm just gonna move one to each side like this. And then with the back wires, I'm just gonna trim them off because this will be a less complicated kind of pendant to focus on the beauty of this quartz stone. So sorry, I forgot to talk as I was doing this, but I put like a little angular bend in these wires with my pliers like this, and then I just push them down. And the result of that is that your wires are really flat up against the remainder here of the pendant. So now when I trim them, it's almost like they're not there. Can barely see them. They're not sticking up. And once you trim them, you can kind of just press down on them a little. But this portion, don't worry about it. Like, oh, these are sharp little wire ends. They're going to get covered up. We're going to take our bale and we're going to bend it. You can use something to bend it around, or you can just do it by hand. It's up to you. And then the little ends here of the bale, they're going through this gap. Okay, so we're just going to push it all the way down, and now you see it covers up those wire ends. so you don't have to worry about those. So I'm just pulling these wires through, and I'm just pushing them. Let me move these out of the way. Ooh. Pushing them back like this. Because what I want to do with them is I actually want to use them in my decoration. I know a lot of times I just kind of wrap them around here and then just try to cover that up. But this time I'm just going to use them. Since we got rid of the back wires, might as well use these. So I'm just bending them at an angle like this. And now I am bending them. This might be easier if they were just a little bit shorter, not too short, because we're still gonna do things with them, but just mine were really long. So this way it's easier to tuck them in. So I'm tucking them into the bail, and then I'm grabbing them and pulling them. And by the way, if you happen to like this, what I'm doing here with the bail, the way it turns out, I don't know how it's going to turn out yet, but say it turns out really pretty and you want to do this, you don't have to do like a raw crystal. You can just do a cabochon there if you wanted to. So the wires went through the bail and they're wrapped all the way around. I'm just kind of pressing on them to, you know, get them nice and even. All right, so now we have a little wire. Ooh, sorry. So now I'm just gonna trim them, but leave a little end because I want that end to hide away inside of the bail. So not too swirly here, just kind of going across. You could make a swirl if you wanted to, but I'm just pressing it down. Oh, I think it's a little bit too long. You can kind of see the wire here. Yeah, one of them is just a smidge too long. I'm going to try and cut it because I don't want the wire to go all the way through the bail and be sticking out the other side where you can see and feel it. So I'm just trying to trim it. All right, so I've trimmed it a little bit here. So now when I press it down, it's just inside of the bail. And it's not sticking out the other side, and you can't feel it sticking out the other side. All right, so we've got this sort of situation going on, and now we just have to do something with these two wires. So let me think here. I'm gonna grab some beads here. These are 2mm copper round beads from Rio Grande. You don't have to if you don't have beads, but just for fun, why not use some beads here? Trying to do something different looking. So I am trying to get them onto this wire so they fit well on this 21 gauge square wire. They also fit on 20 gauge round wire, but I believe if you have 20 gauge square wire, they don't fit. So you'll have to use different beads if your wire is thicker. All right, so I did 5 beads. And let me think here what I want to do. All right, let me hold this upside down because I'm afraid if I let go, the beads are just gonna fall off. So I'm gonna use this wire first, and I'm just gonna bring it kind of across like this because I don't want to use this on top and like cover up the beads. So now I'm gonna use the wire with the beads, and I'm just gonna bring it across like this, and then I guess my beads will end. Let me see what it looks like if I hold it like this. All right, that looks decent. So my choices are either to just have the beads going here and then being stopped by this wire, because if I push them down, then they can either be like underneath or above this wire. This wire kind of like stops them because our wire gets pressed up against it, and then see the beads can't move down. So let me just move them all the way up. I don't like that there's a gap here at the top. So I'm moving the beads all the way up, and then I'm pushing them down, and they're just gonna go down to here, and they can't really go down any further because this wire stops them. And then I am kind of going around, bringing that wire to the back. Let me zoom out a little. So I'm just going to trim that wire just a little bit because I want to wrap it around. So I'm going to grab the end of it, push it through from back to front. You're going to have to adjust it on the front here because you want the beads to slide. So I'm just pulling it through the front. There we go. That didn't mess up the beads. And then I'm just kind of pressing on it here just to kind of squish it. Squish this little loop that got formed with the wire. And now the wire is going to go to the back like that. And here on the back, we're just going to trim it and grab the little wire end. So I left a little wire end there so that I can take that wire end and I can turn it kind of inwards in here, and I'm just going to push that in to tuck it away into the bail. Okay, making sure my stone is nice and secure, not wobbly. And now with this wire here that still kind of continues, what I'm gonna do is, I think I'll make a little swirl. I'm just straightening it with my pliers because it got this little kink in it. Okay, let me zoom in again. I think what I'm just gonna do is make a little swirl with it, and then I'll have to use my half round wire to attach the swirl. This is optional if you don't like swirls. I know not everyone's a fan of swirls, and it's also kind of tricky to attach the swirl so it doesn't, you know, lift up. We're gonna have to attach it with some thin wire. So you can just bring this to the back and trim and tuck it in just like we did on this side. So you can definitely do that if you don't want to do a swirl. So I'm just grabbing the end and I am swirling it with my round nose pliers here. And then I'm just gonna go in here with my regular pliers and I'm just gonna adjust my swirl a little bit. Okay, I'm happy with it. It's a good swirl. Here's what the pendant is looking like. And now we're just gonna grab a little piece of half round wire. Just cut yourself a little piece of just like a few inches, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna slide that under. Oh, you know what I just noticed? See that little hole? That's the hole of our bead, because this is really a bead. So that actually works out really well because the swirl is gonna cover it up. All right, so I'm putting the wire under here, and the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna attach this wire. Before I attach the swirl, I'm just going to attach the wire to this frontmost frame wire here. So I'm just wrapping it around a few times. I'm going to do 3 times. I think that's a good amount to really kind of secure it. And then after you've done that, you can trim it. So it actually ends up being 4 because it's 3, but then I have to tuck it away. So it looks like 4 little wraps. So I'm trimming it. And then I'm taking this little wire end and I'm kind of turning it downwards and I'm pressing it down and tucking it away. Okay, then I'm just kind of holding it so it doesn't unravel. And I'm taking this and I'm bringing it in this direction, because sometimes if you don't hold it like I am, this whole thing will just kind of turn and then your wire end is going to end up on the front instead of underneath. So now I'm going to slide this up. Slide, slide, slide. Kind of adjust my swirl a little bit so it covers up that hole. All right, so I'm taking this and this time I'm putting it through the swirl and then underneath. I think I was going into the hole of the bead. No, it's not what I want you to do. I want you to go underneath this frontmost wire. There we go, like this. So it's going through the swirl, then under the wire, so when we pull it, it connects our swirl right there. The swirl is secure. So now we're just going to wrap around this frame wire a few times, probably at least 3 times. I'll just keep it symmetrical with what I did up there. So 1, 2, 3, and this will be like the 4th time because I'm gonna trim it and tuck it. So let me trim it. Then I'm just gonna take this little wire end, tuck it downwards, and just press it down in there. There we go. And this swirl, besides blocking the whole of my bead, also kind of keeps the stone from popping out the front. Like if your frame happened to be really wide up here and theoretically if you pressed on your stone it could have come out, this swirl prevents it from doing that. So now I'm just testing my stone, just pushing it around to see. It's like the teeniest bit wobbly because of this side here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get in here and I'm just gonna push this wire onto the stone just a little more here in the front. All right, that really helped secure it. Now it's less wobbly. Just kind of pressing the frame down because these crystals can be, you know, all different shapes. So pressing the wire down around it really helps. Let me press it over here because it's got like this little gap going on. So I'll just press this wire down into the gap. There we go. That feels like it's not going anywhere. Let me make sure my bail is straight there. All right, and there we go. We have a wire wrapped quartz crystal. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye.